Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and you are our distinguished guests. Come on in.
Come on in. And let's get started.
Let's get started.
On this week's episode, actually, before we get started, how are you feeling?
I'm not feeling well.
Alhamdulillah. I think.
Alhamdulillah. As you may have noticed, we haven't had any episodes out recently, and that's on me. I have just been, and even now, I'm going to be coughing periodically. So anytime I have to cough, I'm just going to pause the recording.
Okay, yeah. It's on both of us. I'm finally getting over the cold. For anyone who has that influenza A, may Allah make it easy for you. It's no joke this year. So let's get started.
Let's get started.
Okay. This week's episode is entitled How to Not Get Attached. This is a question coming in from the Muslim Marriage subreddit, and it is by a sister. She asks, how to avoid potential heartbreak. Salam, everyone. Sorry if this is a stupid question, but I don't know where else to ask this. So I've been talking to a potential for almost 3 weeks and at the same time doing istikhara. The thing is, I've never talked to anyone for more than 2 weeks, and that's because I'm always in a hurry to come to a decision and avoid attachment or potential heartbreak. And so this will be the longest I've ever talked to someone. I'm getting attached. I can even see myself falling for him, but I'm trying to hold on to my wits. 3 weeks is too short of a time for that. I guess my question is, how do I protect my heart from potentially getting broken if this doesn't work out? I was thinking about making the talks only twice a week. We talk every night. I really don't want to involve a third party into the phone calls because that's super awkward. Like, the calls are completely appropriate, but someone else listening in makes me uncomfortable. I also don't know if I should hurry this along and tell him I want to get married to him because I know people talk for months and going too fast might scare him off. I don't know. My parents are the ones who set us up, so they know we talk, but they think we only talk on the weekends, not every day. They don't want me to talk to him every day, which is also why I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong, or maybe even committing a sin by talking to him too much. Advice appreciated. So, what are your thoughts on this young lady's question?
Apparently parents already know about the potential spouse. So, I mean, is it really awkward for them to join in on the conversation?
Yeah, that makes sense. That would, but even if they joined in on the conversation, which is probably favorable, her concern is more, how do I keep from developing feelings, especially because I'm already developing feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's 3 weeks in, and she's primarily concerned that if this doesn't work out, and if my feelings keep developing, this might result in heartbreak. So
feelings are going to develop if you're having a one-on-one conversation, a one-to-one talk. Typically, you want to have the third person in the room so that you don't have to worry about feelings developing.
Okay, so your advice to her would be to have a third party listen in on the conversations?
To have a third party listen in on the conversations, yeah. That's what my advice would be. It's not really my advice though.
Okay.
It's not advice that I came up with.
No, it's in general, other than having a mahram present during these conversations.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that people can do to try to avoid becoming attached? Because I know that is a very big concern for people.
Just get married.
Okay, that is definitely a solution. In fact, that was the advice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I remember there was a hadith that the cure for two people in love is marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm paraphrasing. That was my understanding of that hadith.
There's no longer a problem if they're married.
This is true.
Yeah.
But okay, all right. So I'm just gonna put my coaching hat on, and just give straight coaching advice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I can tell that you're still not feeling 100%. So just bear with me if I carry the brunt of this episode.
My voice is basically gone. You can tell.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. It makes a difference. Okay. So generally, whenever I get this question from clients of how do I keep from getting attached, the answer is multifold, right? The first approach that many people try to take is by shortening the vetting process. I don't ever recommend shortening the vetting process. Make sure that when you're getting married to somebody, you have all the information that you need, as much as is possible, in order to make sure you're making the right decision for yourself, right? So that making sure that this person is compatible with you, they have a good character, they have good capacity, and that connection is there, right? And these things take time. The number of months that we give is between 3 and 6 months, depending on the situation. Well, some people ask me why 3 months. Well, 3 months, there's a reason for that. Sometimes you'll come across people who are somewhat personality disordered or who have intentions that are different from yours. And people like this can put on a front, right? They can show you a version of themselves. So they can show you a version of themselves. The good news is people have difficulty maintaining that front or maintaining that mask or holding it up beyond 3 months. Yeah. There are always exceptions to every rule, but on average, I find that about 3 months is how long it is before people become a little bit fatigued and you start to see glimpses of their real intentions and their real personalities, right?
Cracks in the mask.
Exactly. So that's why I always used to wait at least 3 months for myself, and I always recommend clients wait 3 months. And then wait at least, depending on the situation, sometimes it's a completely unknown person and you might need to vet for longer. That's why I say up to about 6 months. So if you're still talking to somebody and trying to vet them beyond 6 months, you have to reevaluate whether or not this person is right for you. Maybe they're just...
Yeah, you should know the person by 6 months in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes about that long. The exceptions to that rule might be somebody, for example, who's a single parent and who has children. The stakes may be raised, and you might need to vet even longer. But in general, 3 to 6 months. And make sure that you take as long as that you need to gather the information, the right information, to the best of your ability to make sure that you're making the right decision. Do not rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, rushing is not something that is recommended in our religion. Don't rush. Don't do hasty decisions.
Yeah.
Right? So in order to not get attached, rushing is not an answer.
Yeah.
So what do you do? All right. So what do you do? The one thing that I recommend that people do is to really invest emotionally and mentally into the rest of your life, right? So that means the time that you spend with your family, your friends, with the time that you invest in your career, in your spiritual well-being, emotional well-being, all of the other aspects of your life that make you you. Invest in those things. Invest in that time with them. Not only would that help you to maintain a bit of an emotional distance, right? And therefore clarity to the people that you are in talking stages with, but at the same time, there's no guarantee that any of us get married, right? By continuing to invest in the rest of your life, you're making sure that you have a good outcome regardless.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah, regardless. I remember when you and I met.
This
was the approach that I was taking. Alhamdulillah. I was I really loved I really loved spending time with my sister, my nephew, my family. I had really good friends. And so I would set aside time every single day to spend time with those people who I already loved, working on my career, learning what I needed to do for what I do for my day job, as well as for this business that I was already setting up in the back of my mind. So just doing all of those things. And I would sit down with my journal and I would write out what my life would look like as a single person.
Yeah.
Right. And just emotionally invest in that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to live in this type of home, in this type of apartment, in this city. I loved cats. So I said, I'm going to have 2 cats. I'm gonna, live near enough to my family. I'm gonna do, just really picturing and investing on all of that.
Yeah.
Therefore, when I would meet somebody, when I would meet them, like when I met you, I would be in a much more clear-headed place to evaluate, okay, what are you adding to my life? And this advice is for both men and women. So that when you meet somebody, you'll be able to really see, is this person going to be able to add to my life in a real and genuine way, or not? Because if they're not, then why do it? Rather than thinking just based on your emotional connection, you're thinking from a more practical place. So that's the first advice, to invest in the rest of your life without as a single person. Because that's the most important aspect of your life. Your life is a single person. That's what you will have to bring to the table. So it's important that you invest in that so that your outcome will be good regardless. In Shaa Allah.
In Shaa Allah.
In Shaa Allah. Second bit of advice is to keep your options open. Right? At least within reason. So that, let's say you meet I'm speaking to the listener. Let's say that you meet somebody and you're speaking to them for a month or so. And after a month or so, you're thinking, okay, this is somebody I would really like to consider, right? And I should take seriously or so. So maybe after a month to 2 months, the two of you decide, okay, we're going to be a little bit more exclusive. I'm just going to be talking to you because we're getting closer and closer to the time to make a decision. Right. So once you're on closer to that 3-month or 6-month mark where the two families have met, at that point, then maybe be exclusive. But up until that point, keep meeting people. Right. Make sure that it helps you to continue to think with your head, with your mind, rather than with your heart. Right. Definitely, connection is part of the equation. But it's important that you're making this most important decision in your life based on facts, based on the things that we talk about, rather than only how we feel. Like, remember the 4 things?
Yeah.
So we always talk about evaluating a person's character, their capacity, their compatibility, and their connection. Mm. When you are evaluating based only with your heart, you're only evaluating based on connection. That's 25% of the equation. You're missing 75%.
That's how you get electric shocks.
Okay, yeah. So in order to make the right decision and to stay in your mind, one of the things that I recommend is keep meeting people. Keep your options open. Mm-hmm. Right? If the other person asks you directly, okay, this is something that I always used to say. So, if the other person asks you directly, hey, are you talking to anybody else? It's important to be honest. You say, yes, I am. But you can always reply with, yes, I am, but you're my favorite. Yeah. I think
what you want to do is you want to say, yes, I am. You're now aware of the competition.
There you go. I think I said that to you at one point. That used to just be my standard line.
Your standard line, absolutely.
Yeah, because what that does is you're being honest, right? But in a little bit of a cheeky way. So the other person understands where they stand. If somebody has a problem with that, and there were people who had a problem with that, that's completely okay. Just say, okay, I respect the fact that you're not comfortable with that. I don't know if we're going to be compatible or this is a good match, And you tell them, it was great to meet you. I wish you all the best. Assalamu alaikum. Somebody who can't.
If you choose to come back, you're gonna have to get to the back of the line.
Yeah, there you go. Just please take a number.
Yeah.
And back to the line, end of the line. But yeah, so that's the method that I recommend. Continue meeting people, because not only will it help speed up the process for you instead of going one by one, but also it'll help you to keep a bit of an emotional distance and help you to continue thinking clear-minded with your mind rather than only with your heart. Mm-hmm. So those are the 2 big pieces of advice that I give people. And usually those 2 are sufficient to help to help people to keep from being attached.
That advice works for dating apps only, right?
People that you meet anyway, no matter how you meet them, whether it's dating app or not dating app.
Yeah.
Like for this young lady, she met this gentleman through her family.
Mm-hmm.
And she's concerned that it's only 3 weeks in and I'm starting to develop feelings.
Yeah.
So definitely, if she wants to start to include her parents or family member, a mahram, in their conversations, that will help to start to cool down the feelings and help her to come back into her head rather than just the heart.
Yeah.
That can be a part of the equation. But I would also recommend she focus on what we talked about of number one, investing in the rest of her life, her career, her friends, her family,
Mm-hmm.
and really trying to envision what life will look like as a single person, and spend time and effort to make that as beautiful as it can be.
Yeah.
So that the outcome will be good regardless.
What she should do, realistically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
is she should involve mahram in the conversations, either like a parent or a brother.
Mm-hmm. Somebody.
That way, not only will it protect her, but it'll also get her comfortable with the concept of a mahram being there, so that if she does have children,
Mm-hmm.
she'll also be comfortable with her being the mahram or him being the mahram, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I feel like if the girl is shy or awkward about it at this stage,
Mm-hmm.
that as parents, they're also going to be shy and awkward about it. And it's just going to become a chain of non-mahrams.
Okay, it's a different kind of vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's also a vicious cycle.
Yes. No, what I mean is so that's thinking long term, and I
Yeah.
like that, right? So you might as well start now.
I call it a tradition, a family tradition.
It's a good tradition. It's the
Yeah.
one recommended by our religion. So I agree with that. But in addition, so we were talking about number one, to invest emotionally and envision your life as a single person, and number two, the other advice that we would give her is to keep her options open. Right, tell her parents, this person is a great person. Let's keep meeting people.
Yeah.
And or if she, whatever modality it is that she is using to meet people, to continue doing that. And if she's not in a position to continue meeting people, then to just focus on the first thing we talked about, which is the rest of her life, right? Yeah, because the reason why that advice, and I'm not the only person who gives that advice, a lot of the best relationship coaches
Mm-hmm.
will give you that same advice. The reason why that advice works so well is because there are a set of human needs, and one of these human needs is the need for emotional connection.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people underestimate their need for emotional connection. And when they are in the position where they're starting to meet people and they make a good connection with somebody, and it's in a romantic sense, right?
Yeah.
Even as a single person, your intentions with this person is for marriage, so it's in that romantic dimension.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of emotional connection than what you have experienced before.
Yeah.
And because it helps you to meet that need for emotional connection better than what you've experienced before, you become attached to the feeling of the connection itself, sometimes more so than the person.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the advice that a lot of coaches and a lot of counselors give is therefore to try to meet that, get into the habit of meeting your need for emotional connection outside of the romantic relationships.
Exactly.
By scheduling time with your friends, scheduling time with your siblings. If you can volunteer in your community, but just be around people and
Mm-hmm.
connect with the people in your life in other sense.
Yeah.
So that you can meet that need, we'll say, instead of up to maybe 80%.
Yeah.
Or maybe 85%, depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Therefore, by the time you are talking to people in a romantic sense for the purpose of marriage, you are already 80% full and you're able to think much more clear-headed. However, if you haven't invested time in meeting your emotional need for your need for emotional connection, and you're coming at 0% or 10%,
Yeah.
and you're now speaking to somebody in a romantic sense, then you're going to be a lot more vulnerable. a lot more reliant, a lot more dependent on them as your source of emotional connection.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid all of that, that's why we say it's so important to do that first thing that we talked about, which is invest in everyone else. I know I'm being a little bit repetitive, right? But it is vital and crucial for your searching process to be able to remain clear-headed, to make this incredible decision, and therefore do number 1 and number 2.
Those are all great points. They're all fantastic points.
Jazaa K'Allah Khayr.
I have a point of my own.
Oh, okay.
If you guys are going to be getting married, what you should do is you should set the marriage time for probably like 4 a.m. on the 1st of October. Right? You just tell them, hey, we're going to be having the ceremony at 4 a.m. on the 1st of October. And it's going to take about 3 or 4 hours for us to get ready for the ceremony. The girl might take longer if she's really worried or concerned, right?
Yeah.
But the guy, he's just going to wake out of bed, take a shower,
shave,
play some games,
yeah,
and clean himself up and go get married, become a husband. But the reason why, and I think you know where I'm going with this.
I have no idea.
The reason why you should ask to get married on the 1st of October at 4 a.m.
Okay.
is so that you can comfortably tell the other person, please wake me up when September ends.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That was worth it. That was a good joke. I like it.
Yeah, it was worth it.
It was worth it.
Yep.
It was definitely worth it.
It was worth it.
We've been doing this podcast for a little bit of time now. I'm sure by now some of the listeners are starting to get married, In Shaa Allah. So if you are one of our wonderful audience, is in the process of getting married, we always love to hear from you. Give us a shout out, and we will be happy to give you a shout out and a congratulations here on the podcast. Yeah, In Shaa Allah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Don't forget to buy a shovel.
Okay. And for the ones who get married, they'll be able to graduate from the single and looking playlist to the married and building playlist.
Yes.
It's a whole different can of worms.
It's a whole new world.
It really is.
A whole new place to see.
All of the lyrics are rushing back to my head for the first time in 20 years. That's interesting. But I think we've answered this young lady's question. Is there anything you want to add to it?
No. She's asking for advice, and then she's asking to not get advice in some points,
Oh, she's being honest. Yeah. She's being honest about what it is that's been going on so far, and asking what direction she should take. But I think she'll be just fine. Honestly, by now she's probably married. Yeah. Inshallah. But that's the advice for everyone who is in that position. I won't repeat it for our 17th time. Inshallah, I'll save you that.
Inshallah.
So that brings us, in order to keep you from coughing anymore, my dear, that brings us to the end of this episode. If you made it this far and this long with us, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, we really appreciate you. If we have said anything that makes sense, if we have said anything that is helpful in this episode or any other episode, please subscribe. And you're on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. If you're on any other of the other podcast platforms, please give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. We've been getting some wonderful people who have been giving us those reviews.
We got some nice comments.
Yeah. People are just awesome. Alhamdulillah. We have the best community.
Alhamdulillah.
And finally, if you are a young lady and you're on the dating apps and you're exhausted by the process, I have created a webinar for you that's 1 hour long. It's live in a small group with me. It is $25 at the moment, especially for the month of Ramadan, and all of the money, all the proceeds from the webinar will be donated to charities funding children who are suffering war right now. But in that webinar, inshallah, I will guide you through the strategies that I use and the ones that I teach my client for how to use the dating app so that it actually works for you in a less exhausting way. The link to that will be in the description if in YouTube or any other of the other platforms. You can also find it on my Instagram page at Zara Hassan Coaching. I think that's it. That's all the housework. Is there anything else?
That's everything. That's everything.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. All right, so again, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.